Do you remember the Ford Fusion? It was essentially a Ford Fiesta that was a little bit taller and it had a little bit of plastic cladding down the side. It was sold between 2002 and 2012 and it wasn't a very pretty car, and if you ask me, it was a little bit pointless. Yes, it gave you a little bit of extra space, but yeah, I thought it was a bit of a pointless move from Ford. Well, I'm afraid it looks as if history has repeated itself. Say hello to the brand new Ford Fiesta Active. It's a Fiesta that's a little bit taller and it's got some plastic cladding down the side. Oh, not again, Ford.
So then, let's kick things off with the styling. I have to say the Fiesta Active is quite a good looking car, so much nicer to look at than the Fusion. It's funky, it's fresh, and it's interesting. As part of the Active package, you get a ride height that has been increased by 18mm, SUV inspired cladding, model specific 17-inch alloy wheels, and of course roof rails. Inside you also get an interior that's bespoke to the Active, and I really like the detailing, and the interior is a nice place to be. So the Active's got the thumbs up in regards to styling, but is it practical?
Because the Active is based on the standard Fiesta, it means that the rear space is a little bit tight, particularly for a taller passenger like myself. As always, the driver's seat has been set for my 6'2" frame, and as a result, I've got no knee room, I've got a little bit of leg room, and headroom is okay, I suppose. So if you want more rear space, I would urge you to have a look at a Ford EcoSport. However, for the Fiesta Active, for smaller adults and children, it should be absolutely fine. The boot is also the same, offering 292 litres, which isn't too bad, but it's not the biggest in its class. However, if you need more space, you can of course fold down the 60/40 rear seats to give you 1093 litres.
Space in the front is good. Getting a good driving position is very easy indeed because the steering wheel adjusts for rake and reach, and the driver's seat also has a good level of adjustment. There's also a good amount of cubby holes in there as well, so the front should be absolutely fine for everyday family life.
So in regards to engines, you can either have a 1 litre 3-cylinder turbocharged EcoBoost petrol, or you can have a 1.5 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder diesel. The engine I have is the 1 litre EcoBoost. This engine is available in a few different power outputs, so you can either have 100 horsepower, 125 horsepower, or 140 horsepower. I've got the 125 horsepower unit, and it makes decent progress. Now, in case you are more concerned about having a diesel, the diesel offers 120 horsepower. Going back to this engine, it offers 170 Newton meters of torque. Despite its SUV appearance, power is fed to the front wheels and not all four wheels, as you may expect, but I will get onto that a little bit later. This power is also mated to a 6-speed manual gearbox, which has got a really nice change to it. It feels mechanical, it's slick, it's got quite a short change to it. Yeah, it is quite pleasing. However, you can have a 6-speed automatic, but that's only available with the 100 horsepower EcoBoost unit. If you want to know more about the 6-speed automatic gearbox in a Fiesta, then be sure to check out my Ford Fiesta Automatic review, which can be found somewhere up there. Let's talk about performance. This car will hit 62 miles per hour in 10 seconds and continue to a top speed of 121 miles per hour. So on paper, it doesn't look particularly exciting, but this engine is quite lively, it's quite zesty, it's quite fizzy, and it makes decent progress. As I've mentioned, the 6-speed manual gearbox is a pure delight to use, and it makes for a pleasant driving experience. The engine has a good band of power from 2,000 revs up to 5,000. Once you get past 5,000, it pretty much runs out of puff and you may as well change gear. This car may not have 4-wheel drive, but it does have selectable driving mode. So I've got normal, eco, but more importantly, I've got slippery. So what it does, it works alongside the traction control and the ABS, and it just makes sure that everything is monitored a little bit closely. So if you're driving on a really wet road or an icy road, the traction control will work a little bit more strongly. It also makes sure that in treacherous conditions that the car doesn't understeer or indeed oversteer, and you can feel it working in slippery mode, and you can tell the traction control is taking a little bit longer to decide what it wants to do. It's analysing the road conditions a bit more carefully. In all honesty, it does kind of feel like this car's got turbo lag when you put it into slippery mode, but I can see what it's doing. It's delaying the power for a reason. It's making sure that it's safe to actually put the power down. Not that this car's got a crazy amount of power, of course, but when you're driving in icy conditions, the slippery mode could be the difference between having an accident and not having an accident.
However, if you do happen to get into an accident, you'll be pleased to know that the Fiesta Active has been awarded 5 stars from Euro NCAP because it has standard features including autonomous emergency braking, 6 airbags, lane keep assist, lane departure warning and speed limiter, but features such as adaptive cruise control and blind spot monitoring can be added on as an option.
As well as the selectable driving modes, this car also has rough road suspension. And I tell you what, it's really comfortable. The car rides really nicely. Now, you will still feel potholes and divots and imperfections in the road, particularly at slower speeds, but once you get it up to a cruising speed, it's really compliant. The seats are really nice and comfortable as well, so I can imagine you could drive this car for quite a long time and not be exhausted at the end of it. This suspension, it soaks up the bumps really well. And this road isn't very good, but the Fiesta is simply taking it in its stride. It's quite impressive. And what I quite like about this car is it feels bigger than what it actually is. And I think for some buyers that'll be fantastic because you get a higher driving position. It kind of gives you the sense you're driving a proper SUV, but of course you're not because it's a Fiesta, therefore it's got Fiesta dimensions. Some may argue this car is pointless, but I can see why Ford has made it. Ford reckons 15% of buyers for a Fiesta will go for the Active model, so you can expect to see quite a few of these on the roads in the UK because the Fiesta has been the best selling car here for, oh god, I think it's almost a decade now. So 15% may not seem like much, but in the grand scheme, that's actually quite a few.
Right, time to talk about price. How much will it cost you and what's included?
The Fiesta Active is available in 3 trim levels: Active 1, B&O and Active X. The Active 1 starts from £18,045, offering features such as 17-inch alloys, air conditioning, rear electric windows, rear privacy glass, selectable driving modes, rough road suspension, and an 8-inch touchscreen with a Ford Sync 3 system offering DAB radio, Bluetooth and smartphone connectivity. Next up you've got B&O, which is what I have here. It starts from £19,445 and adds features such as black detailing to the exterior, cruise control, black roof lining, a 4.2-inch TFT display and of course a 10-speaker B&O Play sound system. Last but not least you have Active X, which starts from £20,795, adding features such as partial leather seats, heated front seats, climate control, navigation, keyless entry and a reversing camera with rear parking sensors. In case you are wondering, the model on test here is £21,090 because I've got the 125 horsepower EcoBoost engine and I've also got a few optional extras, such as this luxe yellow paintwork, which I do really like. I would argue it's more of a gold as opposed to a yellow, but that's neither here nor there. I've also got navigation, a reversing camera with rear parking sensors and full LED headlights. Let's talk about Refinement. Refinement isn't too bad. There is a little bit of road noise coming from these 17-inch alloys, but I wouldn't call it intrusive. Wind noise is pretty good as well, bearing in mind this car is taller than a standard Fiesta, of course. And it's quite pleasant in here. I wouldn't go so far to say it's perfectly silent in here, but it is pretty refined. The engine, when you're cruising, works away in near silence. Very impressive indeed. And this car, it feels grown up. I can definitely see why this car would appeal to certain buyers. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the Fiesta Active has been raised by 18mm, so this car is of course taller compared to a standard Fiesta. So does it mean that the handling has been ruined? Well, let's find out. So far, so good. The steering has got a good weight to it. It feels really chunky, and I like that, and the actual steering wheel itself feels chunky. Right, let's show it a few corners. On the brakes are good, although they are a little bit grabby in slow moving traffic. Yes, there is a bit more body lean, but that's to be expected. This car is taller, of course. And it does feel a little bit more top heavy compared to a standard Fiesta. But would I say it's a night and day difference? No, it's not. It just feels like a Fiesta that's not quite as focused in its cornering, but it still handles well. Better than I was expecting, in fact. It's still a fun car to drive. It's really interesting. Ford has been able to make this car work in regards to its handling, but for whatever reason, they couldn't get it right with the EcoSport. Well, not in my opinion, of course. And the EcoSport is based on a Fiesta, yet for whatever reason, it simply doesn't drive as well as this car. Right, let's talk about fuel economy. On a combined run, this engine should be able to offer me 56.5 mpg on a combined run. And in my experience, I was able to get around 46, which isn't too bad, but if you want more fuel economy, of course, you'd want to have a look at the 1.5 litre diesel.
The 1.5 diesel is able to offer 70.6 mpg on a combined run, and it emits 112 grams per kilometre of CO2, meaning for the first year of VED you'll be expected to pay £205. In regards to this engine, it emits 113 grams per kilometre, meaning for the first year of VED you'll be expected to pay £165.
So to sum up, is the Fiesta Active simply another Ford Fusion, a car that's kind of pointless? Well, some may argue this car is a little bit pointless, bearing in mind you could go out and buy a Ford EcoSport, but I do like this car. It's more enjoyable, it's more fun to drive than an EcoSport. I'd argue it's better looking as well, and I think overall it's an appealing package. I don't think a lot of people would necessarily want or need this particular model, but it's there if you need it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have enjoyed it. If so, give it a massive thumbs up. If you are subscribed, don't forget to click that bell icon so you get notified every time I make a video. And if you aren't subscribed, guys, what are you waiting for? Be sure to subscribe for more car obsession.